Hey there, what's going on? It's Dr. Mike Nelson here, and I wanted to cover the 3 pillars to conditioning programs that you should consider. And I think usually when we think of writing conditioning programs, we tend to only think of the third one, but there's 3 before that. So number 1 is the size of your aerobic engine. The bigger your aerobic engine, even if you are doing things like Metcons or Crossfit or Hyrox programming, this is going to allow you primarily to recover better. This is recovery between either day to day, set to set, or even from one rep to the next rep. Because remember that the replenishment of ATP is driven by the size of your aerobic engine. The bigger your aerobic engine, the faster you are able to get back to baseline, even when doing things like Metcons, Hyrox programming, CrossFit, lactate kind of based stuff. How you would look at that is the primary factor is going to be measured by something called the VO2 max. There's many different ways to do that. I'm a big fan of a 2K on the rower or something called a 12-minute Cooper run test. Now, this does get into specificity. For most people who don't run, I like doing the 2K on the rower. Again, that is a little bit more specific to rowing, but we're just trying to get a basic idea of where you are at. Number 2 of the pillar to conditioning programs is, I wonder if you can guess what it is. It's actually strength. This can be then measured by certain lifts or percentage of your 1RM or percentage of 1 rep max. The reason strength is so important, even again, let's say we're, for the sake of examples here, we're doing some Metcons for Hyrox or CrossFit programming. When you are stronger, it is going to make all sub-max attempts easier. Right? The old example is, if you look at the NFL Combine test, it's going to be bench press, 225 for reps. Let's say you've got athlete A, who is 1RM is 255, versus athlete B, whose 1RM is 355. While this is not specific to how many reps can you pull off on a bench press with 225 pounds, I'll take athlete B all day, because 225 is much more sub-max for 355 than it is 255. So if you can dedicate some amount of your time to just getting stronger, and again, there are trade-offs in all of this, it will make your rep work easier. If you have a bigger aerobic engine, you can also then recover from that specific work. Number 3 is probably where most people go to, which again is fine. This is going to be your specific work. If you have a certain routine, or for using Hyrox again, or CrossFit, certain known workouts that show up again and again, specificity, a la the SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demand, you can get better at those things by doing some specific work. And of course, at some point, you are going to need to do specific work. But what I generally see with programming is people do too much work that is specific, especially when they are no longer progressing. They're not actually getting better anymore. And I work with a fair amount of athletes who, when I look at their original programs, they came in with a lot of specific work. No, they're not getting better, and they can't figure out why. Very simply, we'll do an aerobic test, and if their VO2 max was 22 and they're very weak, yeah, they need to work on those two, especially VO2 max work. So specificity is important. Like, these other two are looking for transfer into the specific work. So the top three, one is aerobic size of your engine, measured by VO2 max. Again, if you don't have a fancy metabolic cart, I happen to have one in my garage gym, which is pretty fun. But if you don't, you can do a 2K on the rower, you can do a 12-minute Cooper run test. There are other tests you can do also. Number two is strength. Whatever movement you're doing, you probably will be benefited by getting stronger at it. This doesn't always necessarily mean a 1 rep max. You could easily do things for 3 to 5 rep max, 5 to 8 rep max. But if you're pushing up all your loads overall, that means anything you do that's a lighter load, i.e. more sub-max, odds are you're going to do better at it. Number three is specific work. You want to practice the thing that you want to get better at. Especially in sports where a lot of the workouts are changing a lot, this can be a little bit tricky, but you want some baseline workouts to know if what you're doing is transferring to make you better at the thing you're actually competing or going to be tested on. And then if we go a little further down the rabbit hole on number three, I won't go too much detail on this. When we're looking at that, especially, we'll take the Hyrox CrossFit example. Many people do a lot of lactate-specific work, and again, there's a time and a place for that sort of acid bath kind of fun. However, the two components that I believe you want to look at are within that is going to be time and movement domain. So time domain is usually going to be determined by your energy systems. Anything in the, let's say, 30 to 120 seconds or longer, we can kind of pull this out to 180 seconds. That is definitely going to be heavy on the lactate system. Again, other parts are going to be used in that also. Movement, we want to look at how efficient can you be with the movement. If you can be more efficient with the movement, then your performance on that is going to be better. This gets into even a subtext of looking at blood flow during the exercise. If you have someone whose, let's say, muscle system is set up to be really strong, and they can do very hard contractions, but they may be contracting so hard that they're limiting potentially venous or other types of occlusion, that their blood flow is dramatically dropping. When that happens, you're going to spin off even more lactate and hydrogen ions. So if we can get them to do these kind of cyclic but very efficient movements, we can get the musculature to relax faster in between contractions. We can then increase blood flow, and we have less metabolite buildup, and we have less of these guys and better performance. The last part here, we can look at something called eustress versus distress. Eustress I view as something you can recover from a little bit easier. This is a performance-based model. Distress, we're prioritizing the adaptations a little bit more and less of the acute performance. So a simple example here would be eustress in specific work would be some type of your benchmark training. Are you increasing your performance in those over time? Now we may find via specific testing, you could do with a NOx device or a Moxie, we can get an idea of what's going on locally with blood flow, and maybe you're occluding a little bit too much, so your blood flow is dropping. We may want to do things to try to get you to be more efficient. Or if the efficiency is maxed out, we talked about on the previous slide, your aerobic system is pretty good, your strength is pretty good. Maybe we want to do something to really work on those adaptations to lactate and hydrogen ions. So how well can we teach your body to buffer more of these hydrogen ions? We can use some supplements to help with that, but we may use something like blood flow restriction, where this is definitely going to drop our performance, but because we are purposely restricting blood flow, we are going to build up more lactate and hydrogen ions. The point there is to ramp up the adaptations by the body to be better able to handle that. So when we go back to our eustress model, we have better local adaptations, and that will hopefully then translate into better performance. So those are just a few things of my bias, 3 pillars to conditioning programs. And if you are interested in this, we've got a great seminar that is coming up with my buddy Luke from Muscle Nerds, and it is going to be in May. It's going to be May 25th and 26th. This is 2024. It is going to be about 30 minutes from Amsterdam. This is in Amersfoort. People can tell me how I completely slaughtered the pronunciation of that town, which I apologize. It'll be at the Physical Performance Coaching Center. And right now, tickets for both days are only $4.95. It is a 2-day event, as I said. We're going to be going over all types of aerobic conditioning on day 1. We're going to do more anaerobic conditioning on day 2. And this is going to be useful if you especially are programming for, say, Hyrox athletes, Crossfit athletes, or any other type of sport where conditioning is going to be vitally important. So we'll put a link down below somewhere here where you can sign up for it. I'm super excited to be over there with my good buddy Luke, who I've known for many years, and we'll also give you our exact protocols that we use. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A, and you get to practice there also because it's a fully equipped gym, and we'll be able to run you through some different assessments and everything else. So any questions, you can find me online, and I would love to see you there. I guarantee it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.